All right, welcome to Shards and
Welcome.
Shenanigans. Welcome, everybody. Glad to have you. We are exploring chapters 9 and chapter 10
Oh
of
yeah.
the Mistborn book. Super excited. Christopher is pumped to talk about this.
I'm
He has
pumped.
been chomping at the bit.
Arr, arr, arr.
So let's. Speaking of chomping, let's get into let's get into the snack here. So the snack here,
It's
very
short.
short snack. Just yeah, it's a short little guy. In the end, I worry that my arrogance shall destroy us all. I think that this is now the path that I'm on. I think I'm pretty secure in that this is the Lord Ruler from a previous time, probably 1,000 years ago.
Okay. All
That's
right.
kind of what I'm thinking. This
A
snacks are
thousand
all
years
about.
ago. Why do you choose 1,000?
Well, that's when the what is it? The Ascendants happened.
The Ascension. Yeah, nice.
Ascension.
You're on. I just wanted to guide you back to it. Ascension. That's right. Yeah, heck yeah. And we've heard about that, in the past chapters. All right.
Yeah.
Well, let's. I guess snacks over. Time to dive in.
Yeah, main meal here. Pushing past the hors d'oeuvres, we're going straight to our entree.
Ding ding.
So we're a couple months into the future here. It is now the late autumn, and Vin is in an intense Mistborn battle. At least we're assuming it's Mistborn here. I mean, we're going to find out very quickly as you read through the chapter, but I guess technically it could be a misting, someone who's got some push pull, which would be iron and steel.
Steel. Yeah, I think so.
Okay, cool. And so she is. We open up right to her in this intense battle. So she's jumping around, hopping all over the place, flying through the air, and we quickly see that she's fighting somebody else, and we don't get a good description of really who it is or kind of what's going on. It just kind of jumps straight into the action. Some of this we've kind of experienced as far as in earlier chapters with Kelsier, like when he went to go steal from Lord Venture. We got a lot of this kind of same combat in the sense of like, pushing, pulling, pulling on the metal on somebody, trying to jump over them, jump around them. So this is, I guess, familiar in that sense, but the first time that we're seeing Vin in this kind of scenario. So,
Right.
she's, again, like I said, she's jumping all around. She's using her tin to enhance her senses, and it's pretty cool. A lot going on. The cool thing I think during this fight, not to get into too many details, because I think if we overanalyze analyze this fight, it's going to take us like 3 hours to record this, because
Yeah,
there's so much
it's
cool
well described.
stuff going on.
Yeah, well described.
Very well
Very
described.
good detail. Yeah, I hope the listeners enjoy this fight when they're reading through it, because I think it's just
so good.
showcasing some of his creativity and imagination. Just really comes through here. Yeah.
So the two, I guess a couple things I do want to cover in it.
Yeah.
So the use of these coins, which we've seen before, but obviously you're using the coins both as a weapon themselves. So like, launching coins at somebody to like hit them with the flying metal at high speeds, almost like a
gun.
projectile, bullet, that
Like
kind
a
of thing.
shot. Like a shot.
Um,
Yeah.
But also using the coins to push against. So, you drop a coin on the ground, you push off of it. You throw it out to the side, push off of it that way. You go the opposite direction. So there's a ton of that going around.
Yeah. I love the physics involved. You know what I mean? Like he's digging into the possibilities of physics and magic, which is just
Oh yeah,
really cool.
and we along with that physics, Vin uses that to her advantage here. Something that we find out that her opponent falls for, where she keeps a couple of the coins from her coin pouch, but she takes the bag and launches it, just chucks that shit, and we see that the opponent then hones in on where those coins are going through the air as they're arcing, and it's launching coins at it.
So then we
And
know
so
it's
she's
a
using-
Mistborn, though. They
Yeah.
can only know that is you can, do both those things because the Misting just have one metal they can do. So, like, they're tracking that going through the air. Like, they know, oh, that's the Mistborn. That's great.
Right. Oh, for
Great
100%.
feint. Really good feint.
And so she fakes, little fake pump, and it ends up not in her way. She lands on the ground. She's trying to get her knives out, lunges and slashes. She jumps back, and we quickly learn that the person that she's been fighting this whole time is actually just Kelsier.
I love that you don't know, though. It's like, it starts tense, right? Like, oh no, who's she fighting already?
From chapters where it's like, oh, hey, here's some skills that you're learning, to, oh, 2 months have gone by and you're doing fucking flips
and you're about to die,
and and things aren't good.
Right.
So super important detail here with her and Kelsier, which we'll talk about. Kelsier will talk about it a little later in the chapter, so we'll discuss it then. But the act that he's talking about that we're going to discuss here is when they get into this pushing match.
Yeah.
And so there's this coin in between a series of coins. They end up both pushing each other out to, try to kind of push the other one away. One of the coins kind of remains, and that's what they're both pushing off of to kind of push each other. And they're both really struggling here. And, Vin gets pushed back into a tree. The tree snaps. And we don't hear a ton of what's going on with Kelsier. We just know that it seems like a big struggle between the two of them in this instance. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. But that's a really good
it's good
preview for what I think is something that is important, that I have a lot of insight and thoughts to discuss about.
Awesome.
So after that happens, Kelsier gives Vin the coin that is that they pushed against, that is just kind of flattened out. We had a coin there, now it's completely flattened from the excess force that they were exhibiting on it.
It's awesome. So cool.
So cool. So after this, basically after the training session, after the fight, Kelsier says to Vin, hey, I know it's instinctual. You don't have to put your hands up when you push.
Right.
You're not Iron Man here. Pun intended.
Totally.
Iron Man. You're not pushing stuff. But that is a good point. You can just obviously just kind of think it and it'll happen. You don't have to block stuff and use your hands. And so again, get the description here that, as he's saying, Vin's doing a great job, and she's only been doing it for a few months, but her progress is really fantastic. And so we get to see that Kelsier's, pretty impressed with what's going on. So Kelsier is going to basically, he's like, hey, I'm going to run off again. Why don't you head back to Lord Renew's, the manor, and so he takes off. He hasn't been taking Vin with him on his night excursions, night raids. We've seen raids here that he's been hitting quite a few, over the last couple months, at least 12, or at least a dozen, it says, places, manors, lords, big places where that you want to go and cause trouble in. He's been doing that. Yeah.
Right. Enacting his plan to, was it on the chalkboard? Stir discontent among the nobility.
Yeah, it was something
mayhem, chaos, or something awesome.
Yeah, and he's like, oh yeah, that's me.
That's my job. I love it.
So he basically jumps out, and Vin uses some coins to get back. She finds her coin pouch that she had tossed. It's in a tree. Kelsier, she says here, would have just left it because it's not enough coins, which is kind of a question I was going to have of how how many coins are in here? How much is that worth? Is that worth anything? But clearly, it's not enough for Kelsier to worry about, and she is just can't even comprehend letting that money go. She's never really had money, even if it's a small amount for Kelsier. For her, it just seems like such a waste to just leave it in the tree or something. So she snatches that. Uses some coins that she's tossing to kind of, glide back, fall with style,
Yeah,
back
that's
towards
awesome.
the manor house. So she half jumps, half runs there, and then gets there. And so once there, she Vin talks a little bit, or at least has a thought in the book about how we're getting some descriptions again
The steel pusher.
of the manor house,
Oh yeah.
and she's wondering where Sazed is because she's basically needs to have a lesson with him. She's been having lessons with him about basically
Yeah.
being a lady, how to be a noble.
Says.
And as part of all that, she talks about Lord Renew, and she says that, or thinks that, she remembers from a conversation a couple months back that Kelsier was saying that Renew wouldn't be able to withstand scrutiny by an Inquisitor.
So
she's kind of working through that. And she's like, maybe they're going to be able to sense something with his emotions, something that gives him away, and she's not really sure what it is.
Good catch. Yeah, no, I like that you caught that. It's good.
She's picking up, and like she even says here that like it's just a small thing, but she's not going to forget it. Like, she's tracking all these details, and she's not going to let these things go. So Sazed's in the kitchen. We get introduced to another character that's there with him, Kasan or Kosan.
Yeah, Kasan. Yeah,
And
I think it's Kasan. I think that's right. This is Kasan, right?
Kasan. And so Sazed is gonna basically says like Kasan's gonna cut her hair now. It's gotten long enough that it's kind of unruly. It does need to get cut. It's definitely not long, like in the sense of it's down to my shoulders or my back somewhere, and we got to trim it. Like it's still only down barely like past her ears, so not really long hair at all. But it definitely needs to be like kept up and cut to where it would basically look good, especially for someone who's supposed to be imitating a noble.
Noble
And
woman, right?
We get another fun tidbit about terracemen. Kosan calls Sazed Master Vant, and that Vant is apparently the proper title for a terraceman steward. And so, like, you don't call them steward,
Right.
you don't call them whatever, you call them like Master Vant, and that can be applied to, it sounds like, really any terraceman steward.
Interesting. Nice catch. Yeah, I like that. I missed that this read through.
So Kelsier is still not back when Vin gets back to the manor, and she's going through this with Kasan and Sazed, and basically Kelsier doesn't think that Vin is good enough or has practiced enough to go with him on these nightly raids. Like she's hanging back, and we're gonna find out here in a little bit, but maybe I should wait till then. But she just hasn't really had practice with all of the medals. He's kind of focusing on a small subset. We'll get there. But basically, she's not skilled enough to go on these raids with him. And this is where we get that detail.
Like that. Yeah.
This is where we get that detail where she, Kelsier's been to, dozens of different nobles' houses, both in Luthadel and Felice.
Yeah, right.
And he's using different disguises to try to basically, like you said, sow that discontent or cause that chaos. And so pretty cool. And so Sazed is like, oh, Vin, like, would you be willing to listen to another proposal?
Yeah.
And so, like,
I love these.
Don't know what's going.
Love these. Yeah, these are my favorite.
Well, and so we're gonna hear from these. That's definitely in this chapter and the next. And so I don't know why this is happening, and I have some questions about it probably.
Yeah, I love it.
Basically, he's trying to describe religions to her here, to Vin, and is basically trying to get her to pick one. And at first I thought maybe she needs to be some kind of religious if she's going to pretend to be a noble person.
You thought it like had a purpose towards her mission.
Right.
Yeah.
But then I like, based on later context, which we'll get to in chapter 10, I do not think that's the case.
Yeah,
like,
right. This is just
I think he just has
part of his
this
character
innate thing. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And so he's trying to basically get her to convert to Trelligism, which is named after the god Trell, and these people, the Nalazans, they're the ones that worshipped this god and had this religion, and it's all about, they lived in the far, far north, like, like Inuit type north.
Sure. Yeah, right.
Where, day during the summer is 20 hours a
Yeah,
day.
he describes
at
some
night
kind
in the
of
winter,
like
he just
solar effect on the planet or the sphere. Yeah, I love that.
Very Earth-like. Very Earth-like.
Sure. Right. Planetary. He applies a planetary context to the magical universe, which is just cool.
Yes, it's cool. It's good. It's good detail. And so basically, these people end up worshiping this god who puts put all the lights in the sky. They've mapped all the stars, or at least all the major stars back in the day. And this god had a brother, Nault, and Nault was basically the sun. And they didn't like the brother, the sun, because he was trying to outshine his brother. That's why he was one big point in the sky, and that's why he's so bright. Which I'm sure this has some callback to real world, like
religions,
earthly religions, or like gods,
spiritualism,
or
cultures.
Myths,
Right.
And so I don't know what Sanderson's drawing his inspiration from here. We do know, when we were reading The Wheel of Time, Robert Jordan, and I think a lot of authors
definitely
had a large propensity to taking myths and taking history and taking these small pieces of all of that and weaving them into the story, either like by using like character names that resembled those, or so I would imagine that's maybe something that happened here. Or maybe Sanderson just completely created this on his own, just came up with the idea. But I would hope or guess that it's based on something that is maybe on our world.
Cool.
And so basically, Vin here is trying to basically be like, you've tried to, she says, you've tried to convert me. Like, this is like our fifth religion that you've tried to convince me to join.
Yeah,
like,
she's fed up.
I'm not... What are we doing here? Like, how many more could there be? And he says 562, which for me, that was very, like, I couldn't, like, it's almost like C3PO.
Sure.
Like,
you
ask C3PO a question and he just like, he's like calculating, like,
right,
he's like,
right.
562, master,
like
whatever.
Like
that's
data storage, right?
yes.
Like the data bank. Yeah, very interesting. I think I like your comparison there a lot for a lot of reasons. I'm excited to learn more.
Well, we get a little more here. So, Vin's kind of amazed at how many religions there are and how many he has memorized, and, how does he have these memorized? And Sazed says that, basically, most of the religions are just sects or small changes from one to the other. Mm-hmm. And she's like, yeah, but still, how do you memorize that? And he's like, I have methods.
Yeah.
We don't get any information on that.
Methods. Yeah, great, dude. Great.
Nice. And so he's like, she's like, what's the point? What's the point to all this? And Sazed says, it's obvious, people had beliefs, especially before the Ascension. And ever since the Ascension, the Steel Ministry basically forbids any kind of worship other than worshiping the Lord Ruler. Right. And Inquisitors have destroyed hundreds and hundreds of religions. So if someone doesn't remember them, they're just going to disappear. Like who? We have to remember these.
Right. The ultimate act of rebellion. I love it. Like it's so good.
You can't kill these religions unless you basically kill the Terrace Men, because the Terrace Men are and we'll get into it, but And
Cool.
so says, actually Vin here, she's got the thought, is everyone involved with Kelsey are insane? That's like the thought that she
It's
has.
so good. Great
It's
thought.
super
I
good.
mean, yeah,
Yeah,
hard
you're
saying.
not wrong.
Hard saying.
And
We'll see.
and so we learn here that um, basically Says and Terracemen like him. Maybe not all Terracemen, but at least him. And there
And
are some
like
others
him. I like how you're saying like
are
him though.
or maybe it's not even just Terracemen. Maybe it's just like people in this world, but are keepers. There's these keepers.
The keepers.
And
Yep.
keepers,
You're onto something there.
you know, based on the context, is these people who are storing this knowledge, basically for a future time. Because he goes into this like, when the and I don't know if I wonder if it's here or later. Oh yeah, it is here. So basically, when the Steel Ministry no longer holds sway, like once this final empire collapses, like everyone's going to want to return to the belief of their fathers, and that's when the keepers are going to basically be able to let that happen for them.
Amazing.
There more like you, she says. Not many, says, but some enough to pass on the truths. And so it's Kazan is still all this while is cutting Vin's hair. She is just kind of cutting, snipping away, and Says it starts to go into like basically grilling and running through the lessons that he has been running through Vin with, which is like, can you name all 10 of the great houses of Luthadel in order of power?
Wow.
And so this is obviously lots of information for us here. We don't know most of these names, and so I'll read them for obviously us to recap, but also for the listeners. So we've got Venture.
Do we know that? Do we know that name?
We do know that name.
Yeah,
that's
right.
where Kelsier visited. He stole ATM from them. That's who Docs told. Like, he was the one that originally was like, yeah, I think Venture's been on top. They've been on top for a while. Like, that's who you should hit.
Nice.
So that's Venture. We've got Hastings. We've got Alariel. We've got Techiel. We've got Lacal or Luckle.
Yeah, no, Lacal. Nailed it.
Arakeller.
Nice.
Arakel.
I love like they're just so similar, but I love that like that's like, so feudal and like petty family rivalry kind of nobility.
For sure. There's
stuff.
There's more history there.
Yeah,
sure.
Right.
Hot, which is Haught, not HOT.
Yep.
Urbane and Buvidas.
Yeah.
Buvidas. And so she's able to name them right away, and this is where we get some cool information about Vin and who she's playing.
Yeah.
Who she's gonna be
her
in this
backstory.
world when she's going to the nobility.
Love it.
And so I think I might just we've got no listeners. We're not making money. I think I'm just gonna read it.
Yeah, do it.
And so I am the Lady Valette Renew, fourth cousin to Lord Tevin Renew, who owns this mansion. My parents, Lord Hadron and Lady Valette Renew, live in Chakath, a city in the Western Dominance. Major export, wool. My family works in trading dyes, specifically blush dip red from the snails that are common there, and callow field yellow made from tree bark. As part of a trade agreement with their distant cousin, my parents sent me down here to Luthadel so I can spend some time at court.
So good. So like memorized, and I love the like additional like deeper caveats of like, oh, well, this color, but this is what it's made of. And like we learn a little bit more right now of like why she knows that, and just like this attention to detail that's like, it's fun. I enjoy it.
It's so good. And Sayes actually comments on her memorization, right? He says that your skills are admirable, but like basically, you could learn so much more, and you'd be so much more successful if you focus on learning instead of avoiding our lessons. And so this is where we hear where basically she doesn't enjoy these lessons. Like, I think part of it is like, who wants to go to school, period. Like, that's like your first
Yeah,
thought.
she's
But
like
then
adolescent, for sure.
she's scared, right? Like,
Definitely.
she does not want to be, like, she's very nervous to be taking on this role and trying to literally infiltrate this nobility, these people that have the power, have not just like the power in the sense of like, well, we're the rulers, but like that's where all the Mistborn are. That's where most of the Mistings are. Like, that's where people who can fuck her world up and figure out who she is are. And like,
so you're
there's a lot of scariness.
I see it like a safety thing, because I think that's really interesting, because like, this is definitely, she does express that fear here, but you don't really hear a lot of that fear when she's doing the Mistborn things, when she's pushing and pulling, and when she's fighting with Kelsier, and I mean risking her life, very much so, the entire first part of this whole chapter. She doesn't talk about fear at all. And so, like, I love that juxtaposition.
And maybe, here, let me jump back a little bit. So back to that first point, you just tipped something off to me.
Nice.
That I had highlighted it. I just missed it over here on the recap. But she says that the mists, the night prowling, it all felt right to her.
Right. Nice. And so good callback.
She feels, at home in this world and doing these things, and it's all very, very comfortable for her.
Right.
And
well, I just wanted to catch one more callback, because I thought of it and I was really excited I made the connection. Because I just want to, I want to help as a guide. So Venture, we heard one more time, and that was in the prologue. And I just want to call us back. Tresting was trying to earn the favor. He was supposed to have a Venture.
Was he trying to have a meeting with him?
He had the obligator from Venture come visit him and assess his obligator and his stuff. That was one of Venture's guys. And so, like, he was very interested in currying favor with Venture and mentioned him directly, I think not but twice, but it's just, I don't know. I had the opportunity, and this is an aha moment for me as a secondary reader of, like, the breadcrumbs. Like, I see breadcrumbs. And it's exciting. So I just wanted to call that out, is that Sanderson's planting the seed about Venture, which now we know is the most powerful house. And so like, I don't know, for me, that made me excited when I first heard it. I knew I know they were the most powerful house, but like, the trail up to it and like seeing the intention behind the writing is kind of cool.
It's so cool.
Yeah, I dig it. It's masterful. I'm a fan.
Yeah. So Vin and Saze and Kosan are sitting out, or she's still getting her haircut, and they're sitting there, and Sazed cocks his head slightly and turns his eyes towards the door, and then a few seconds later, Vin starts to hear footsteps. And so what's going on here with Sazed? So
nice. Okay.
Like, he's either got really good hearing, right? Like,
twice and I missed that.
He's either got really good hearing, like, which maybe the people of the mountains to the north, maybe these terracemen just have good hearing because they've evolved from...
Maybe they do.
Whatever. Or maybe is he using some kind of allomancy to heighten his senses? I don't know. So it's just something to note for future, because I feel like there is definitely something... Like, he definitely heard Kelsier before Vin, and Vin is obviously on edge. Sure. She's like ready to go all the time.
You think she's burning tin? So, think she's burning tin right now?
I don't know if she is. I don't know if she is right now. But even if she's not burning tin, that's her whole life is trying to be observant.
Oh, nailed it. Yeah, 100%.
And like watching her surroundings. So like for him to pick it up before her, there's something going on.
Yeah,
we don't know what yet. What's but with I'm calling that shit out right now.
Yeah, what's with Sazed? Okay, all right, I see you.
And so like Kelsier comes in. Kelsier's back. He's back from his night raid, and or wherever he went. And Kelsier's like, oh, that the hair looks good. Good job, Kassan. And Vin blushes and she's, wants to see a mirror. And she kind of catches herself when she looks at herself, and she finally looks like a girl. So all through her upbringing, when she's on the run or in the streets with her brother Reen,
right?
He's cutting her hair, just chopping it off, making her basically look like a boy. And this is the first time now that her hair's probably got some layers in it, like it's long enough that they can do a little bit with it and make it look a little presentable in the female fashion. And she looks kind of like a girl. And she kind of, I think, here likes it. Is she's not necessarily as opposed to it as maybe she thought she would be. And so, Kassan was basically able to like work out the snags, give her a good haircut, and now she kind of looks like a girl. And she even comments that she could hear Reen's voice saying like, you don't want them to think of you as a girl, but she found herself wanting to ignore that advice and ignore the voice in her head saying that, because she likes how she looks. Like, she's never embraced her girly side or the feminine side that she's got. So she's kind of excited by this.
Yeah, absolutely. She's exploring it. She's like letting herself have it almost, where like she gets this abusive, like, not allowed to experience that from her whole upbringing, which is brutal. Sure. And it's hard to see, but no, I really like it, that, Sanderson's sharing that side with us. Shanderson.
Oh yeah, it's good. And Kelsier's kind of, I don't know, kind of an asshole move here. Yeah. He doesn't know what's going through her head, but he's like, we might actually turn you into a lady. Like,
yeah, I know. Like, oh, God.
And then says it's like, well, first we're gonna have to get her to not to scowl so often. And Kelsey's like, yep, she's quite fond of making faces, isn't she? I was like, Jesus Christ, y'all just going ham on this poor girl. Like,
yeah, no, they're like, her alone. They're treating her like one of the guys, like they're like, but she's kind of discovering her womanhood at the same time. So that's a great catch there. They're they don't really know how to give her what she needs. They're just giving her what they're capable of giving, camaraderie and their own ways.
Sure. Well, Kelsier and Sazed step out in the hall so they can talk basically without Vin hearing, and we haven't really been doing this in any of the past chapters. I think we did it in the first couple maybe one episode or two episodes, but we get you want to say it?
Perspective
change. Yeah.
Dong.
So perspective change.
That was the dong. That was good.
Love a good dong. And so we are in a new perspective. Kelsier here is, he's thinking about, or kind of peeking in at Vin inside. And he was thinking like, wow, that haircut is really good. And that he suspects that, for most, kind of like we talked about, for much of her life, she's been told that she's worthless. And that if he could just get her to have more self-confidence, wow, she wouldn't try to hide so much.
Right.
And so Kelsier is doing this thing where he is kind of not just training her and not just teaching her allomancy, but is trying to kind of just bring her out of her shell in general as like a person too. So that's cool to see. And,
he cares about it, like it's really cool to see. He's invested more in just like, I think more than just like using her as a tool, even though that's like, I think outwardly how he likes to portray himself, because you get the internal dialogue with this read here. And like, he doesn't have to think about that, but he's choosing to. So I like it.
Oh yeah. He's definitely more of a mentor than just a teacher. And so
absolutely,
him and Sazed basically go into the conversation how, again, she's very clever, very quick on the uptake on all of this. She's and he's asking Sazed like, is she ready? And he's like, well, I don't know, like, we've done some practice dinners, we've like, but like, we're not going to know until she does it. Like, until she's at a full party, a full gathering with the aristocrats, we're not going to know. And Kelsier's, he wants her to have some more practice, but we get this tidbit every week we spend preparing, increases the chances that the Ministry will discover our budding army in the caves. And so we've got the army. It is growing, and we'll see some more of that in the next chapter. But that's what we're kind of up against. And,
right. Well, and the threat of the Ministry finding out is like, you know,
right.
like it concerns him, you know, like he respects their prowess.
Yes. And Sazed here has the great recommendation that he needs to send the, you know, Kelsier can't, Kelsier can't, you know, do this all himself. He's only taught her the first four medals, or at least not just taught, but they've only really delved into the first four. She knows the other four, but that's all they've really been able to practice.
Right.
And Sazed has the suggestion, like, send her with the other missing crew members on the team. Like, you know, he specifically mentions Breeze is very good at soothing.
Right.
And like, you don't have time to do all of this. Let them pick up some of the slack while you're off busy doing, you know, leadership
tasks. Like, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great catch. Yeah. Resource.
And
Kelsier.
And we'll see that soon. It's great advice. And
it is good advice.
You know, and this is where we're jumping back. Earlier I had talked about a little hint of something that happened between Vin and Kelsier that we're going to talk about here now during the steel push.
So yeah. We get the inside perspective now, finally.
He's so like, you know, Sazed is basically saying like Kelsier says that's a good idea, Sazed, and Sazed can, like, I feel like he just senses like some hesitation or something going on, and he's like, and Kelsier says, you know, I'm not sure like what I'm feeling, but I do know that we got into this steel push shoving match. The kid weighs less than half of what I do, but she gave me a decent pummeling anyway.
Right.
And Sazed says, well,
strong.
different people have different strengths and elemency. And Kelsier talks about, well, yeah, but it shouldn't be like this. Like, you know, it took me months and months to learn how to manipulate my pushes and pulls. It's not as easy as it looks. You know, it takes a long time. But then she just seems to pick these things up instinctively.
Right.
And true, she can only use the first four medals, but the progress that she's making is amazing. And Sazed's like, yes, she is a special girl. And kind of to your point earlier, you know, Sazed says, you know, about her maybe not being ready, and how like Kelsier is kind of worried that he's going to get her killed. That Sazed says, but that's not going to let you or stop you.
Yeah.
You're not going to let that stop you from using her. And Kelsier's like, nope, like it won't.
But he's like, he's honest about it, I think. And he's like, he's still willing to do it. And even though he does like have that hesitation, he's driven by something. And, you know, he's willing to like risk even parts of his heart, I feel like, you know, and I enjoy this perspective change for sure.
And so Sazed is now tasked by Kelsier to basically be Vin's almost guardian. You know, he's going to be her steward, and he's going to go with her to these events, and it's not going to be weird because, you know, nobility certainly have Terrasman stewards.
Right.
And so like this will be natural. And Kelsier says, all right, like get back to your teaching. We're throwing a ball. Lord Venture's throwing a ball, excuse me, at the end of the week.
Lord
and
Venture.
Ready or not, Vin's going to be there. End of chapter 9.
I'd like to thank all our sponsors, Odell's.
Well, we still got to go through Odell's. We got to go through chapter 10, my boy.
I know. But I think, you know what it is? I think it's time for a cast iron interlude while I hit the head.
Dude,
so it's your turn.
I do.
You heard the first cast iron interlude today? Yeah, all right. Tell them about it. All right, I gotta go.
Oh, God. So, as you guys know, Christopher, in a previous episode, if you listened, had a cast iron interlude, and I was away dealing with some cast iron, some metals, and Christopher kind of filled in the gap for us. See, the unfortunate thing for me is that at the time I was dealing with my cast iron. Christopher's filling the silence here with some good stuff, I'm sure. I haven't edited those episodes yet, so I haven't heard what it is, but he's assured me that it's going to make me laugh. Now, at the time, when I was doing, excuse me, when I was doing, dealing with my cast iron, I could not hear what he was saying. I couldn't. Christopher, during this interlude, as he's little ran away, guess what he's still got on? His wireless headphones. So, guess who's listening to me talk right now? Christopher. Christopher.
That was a good interlude. All right. That makes me even happier that you haven't edited that one yet. And now I got to edit it. So maybe you never hear the interludes until you review. That would be fun. All right. Well, so do we review the 9 or do we just go straight into 10? What do you want to do?
I think let's just do straight into 10.
Hi-ho, Silver. All right. I'm on board.
Yeah.
Choo-choo.
All right. So into 9, we're going straight into 10. But first, we have a little snack.
Mid-podcast snack. Mid-podcast snack.
You guys weren't expecting that.
No. Double snack.
But here it is.
Can't fight it.
And so, again, we're in another perspective here from someone who I'm thinking is the Lord Ruler. And so he's saying how he's basically amazed how many of the nations have united behind the cause, but that there's still some dissenters, some people that weren't on board, and some people who have fallen to wars that he couldn't stop. And that this unity that everybody's in is glorious. It's humbling. And the interesting tidbit, the one little thing we really need to pull out of this is that he says that he wishes the nations of mankind, so now we know they're men.
Yes, yeah.
Men, you know.
Or they consider themselves that, men.
So he wishes that the nations of mankind hadn't required such a dire threat to make them see the value of peace and cooperation. So I think that we're getting a lot here. It doesn't seem like we are, but I'm envisioning post ascension. Right?
Okay.
Is that right?
Okay.
Ascension?
Yeah. No, great word choice.
So I'm sorry, pre-ascension.
You think this is pre? Okay, no, I'm saying the ascension was right, but you think this is pre-ascension?
Yeah. Well, this is Well, no. What I'm saying is, if we're thinking back to pre-ascension, we're seeing many nations, many tribes, many peoples. Mm-hmm. People are at war. People are not unified.
Right.
And obviously, this person, who I think is the Lord Ruler, is basically trying to bring them together, trying to make basically one nation, one final empire. Throw that in there. But what dire threat did he use to make them see this value of peace and cooperation?
What do you think?
What is the dire threat?
What do you think it is?
I don't know. We've got the pits. We've got the what is the word?
Darkness?
Was
it the darkness?
The Koloss?
Oh, we've talked about the Koloss. I'm trying to look back.
So, I'm not sure.
Hold on. I'm trying to look back.
So that's kind of where I'm at. I was thinking Koloss, but
oh, well, definitely.
We got Koloss.
He's definitely mentioned Koloss, and we don't know anything about them. I'm looking back at past snacks. Not the darkness. That was wrong. The snack of chapter 5. There's a mention of second paragraph. The deepness must be destroyed.
The deepness. Yeah. Okay.
Apparently, I'm the only one who can do it. That's chapter 5. So what's the deepness, and what does that have to do with, dire threats? Is that the dire threat?
Who knows?
I mean, he says it must be destroyed. So to me, I'm connecting those two things. And I remember hearing it earlier, and I was like, yes, the deepness. What's that? And it was capital D, which I think was another. I know something that you caught on that I like didn't really give enough respect to my first read
Sure.
through. So yeah, like what's this deepness? What does that mean?
Yeah. Nice. So that's the snack, everybody. We've snacked on. We're moving on to chapter 10. One thing I haven't mentioned, I've gone back and we've been doing some editing on some previous episodes, getting them ready for release, putting
Cast
them out there,
iron,
putting them out
iron
into the world,
lids.
letting you guys know.
Yeah,
And one thing
I know.
I heard myself talking about is I was gonna be. This was me previously.
We're
Was that I
breaking
was
the
gonna
fourth
be
wall.
really, yeah, really honing in on all of these symbols at the beginning of the chapters,
Oh
which
yeah,
I think are related
That's
to all the
right.
different metals.
You were really into it. No, but I mean, I think for me, I was stoked that that's what you were. That was what you
Did
were
not
focusing
follow
on.
through. I did not follow
Well,
through
I
on
mean,
any of that.
yeah, that's fair. Well, whatever, man. Like it's a journey. I think I
Yeah,
think depending on the chapter, different things are gonna come up and like make you want to pay attention to them, right? And so, like
that's
in
true.
the beginning, you're like, what is this symbol? Like, what's going on with this? And then at this point, you're like, I got so many other questions. Like the story has
Yeah,
progressed, and there's so much more I want to know. So
that's true.
yeah,
Well,
I know.
and we talked about how, I think earlier we talked about the symbols and how, during, like at the beginning of the book, when you're looking at part one, there's all these like
Yeah.
5 symbols in a row that,
Sure.
um,
Yep.
or I'm sorry, 10,
10.
that like outline the where it says part one, like that heading.
Right.
And I was like, oh, is that maybe the metals? I don't know. Part two has those exact same ones in the exact same spots. But if we're looking at chapter 10, the symbol there does not match any of the
Any
symbols
of them.
seen.
Any of them.
So
So what?
no
what
idea
is
what's
it?
going on
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
No idea.
Exactly. I know. Well, I think
So
I think that's that's congruent with sometimes how the snacks make us feel. Like in the beginning as you're reviewing, right? Like you're like, what's going on here? Like, what? I don't even know what
sure.
this has to do with anything. But now we got repeated exposure, and we were forming opinions, great opinions. I'm loving it. It's good. Well, I think this
Thank
one
you.
starts with
Thank you.
Vin walking along a street.
She's in the cracks.
She's in the cracks.
So chapter 10, we're jumping on the main meal here. We've got Vin. She's walking down the street. She's in the cracks. What are the cracks? Luthadel has slums. Scott's slums. This is one of them. That's what the cracks are. And so she's got her hood up. She's walking around. She's trying to basically avoid being seen. She talks about how there's, basically some guards walking around from, like the garrisoners. And they're going to kick at beggars. They're going to mess with people. And they've got full armor, breastplate, cap, and their black cloak. They're intimidating looking. They kick the beggars. They, try to make sure that the invalids are truly invalid. They stop wandering workers because you're not supposed to be out. It's work time.
Right.
Make sure that you're working. We need you to work and keep this empire going.
Keep
working.
working.
And so, she's trying to avoid them. She kind of goes down this, like drops down, avoids them. And they don't, like the ones that are passing her don't really mess with her. And she ducks down a corner, goes down an alley, and she goes to the soup kitchen. It's dingy, really gross kind of soup kitchen. There's tons of people there in line, both workers and people trying to get food. Local lords in the area pay for a lot of these, whether they're owning the mill or the forges. They have these workers. They want the workers to live because they need them to produce the either the crop or to produce the product, the goods, the services. And so they actually are the ones, because they're not really paying them anything, if anything at all, to work in these mills anyway. To like continue on and to live. So they still at least want them fed. So they kind of either pool their resources, or, it's cheaper for them to have one centralized kitchen where everyone can go to. It's just all about economy here. Feed them super dirt cheap, probably bad food. And so a lot of people are going here for their meals. And again, avoiding the cost of providing on-site meals to your workers. Since the kitchen owner was paid directly, he could pocket whatever he could save on the ingredients. And so, in Vin's experience, this kitchen food is pretty disgusting. But she's not here to eat. She's here for some cool stuff, and we're going to get into it. So she pulls out like a token, like a little wooden disc, pass it to the guy at the door. He gives her a nod to go like the opposite way of what everybody's like as everyone's filing in. She goes in through this back door, and she finds Breeze. Breeze is hanging out.
Vin, my dear.
Vin, welcome. How was Felice, my dear?
Yeah.
And
I love the Breeze.
yeah, and she's like, or she sits down and she just kind of shrugs and she doesn't even say anything. He's like, yes, I'd almost forgotten what a fascinating conversationalist you are, Wine.
Yeah, he's just exactly, dude. Like he's just so. I don't know. You haven't listened to it yet, right? You haven't listened to it. Like
I don't know if I've heard him yet.
Oh my god, I gotta stress it. Like pick up some Breeze. Just get a re-listen. It's a blast. I think the voice actor on the audiobook does a fantastic job, and he's just a good character. I love it. It's a character to the max. But yeah, so Vin, my dear. All right, she shakes her head.
Yeah, and so they kind of go back and forth, and Breeze is drinking because it seems like he's always drinking. There's 4 men in the room. Vin recognizes one of them as an apprentice from Club Shop. And then the two by the door are basically like she thinks they're just guards. And the last man was just like a regular who appeared to be like a normal ska worker. She thinks it might be one of Yeden's rebels.
Or Yeden.
And
I think I've adapted to the Yeden because I heard it in the podcast.
Okay.
I think it's Yeden or Yeden. I don't know if it matters, but yeah, Yeden.
It doesn't matter.
I think we're calling him Yeden.
Call us. Call in. Email us.
Yeah.
At shardsandShenanigans@gmail.com and tell us what you think. What do you think?
What do you think?
Tell us how you think.
We want you to feel included. And not
what are you looking at?
Don't be afraid of AI. All right.
And so, Breeze assures Vin here that he's not using allomancy on her. Well, actually, he doesn't assure her that. He says, maybe I am, maybe I'm not. It doesn't matter. And we're seeing that he's basically given her first lesson right away, right off the bat. He's trying to teach her some things. He's trying to get this ska worker to get him some wine. And he's saying, like, I assure you this cup of wine in my hand is absolutely necessary for my comfort. And the ska guy, he waits for a minute, snatches the cup, walks out, grumbling. And Vin's asking, like, did you push him, capital P? So did you use your allomancy on him, your emotional allomancy, to push him? And Breeze shook his head. He goes, no, that would have been a waste of brass. And
waste of brass. I love that. That's great.
And like Vin obviously knows why she's there. She's there to watch him. And he says, well, then let us begin. You first must understand that soothing's more than just allomancy. It's all about manipulation.
Someone listening to Cesar's advice.
Yeah.
Right?
Great advice. And yeah, I mean, if these guys are the experts in their field, and, just like, it's like, what's that saying? Like, a jack of all trades is a master of none.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, like, Kelsier, he's got all these metals rolling around that he's trying to deal with. And, like, yeah, he's good at most of them, but, like, he's not going to be maybe the best as someone who's their whole life or however long they've had their powers has focused on, brass. And, like, that's all they're doing is soothing and riding people,
Yeah.
Well, I guess not riding. He wouldn't be riding because you would need a second metal for that. So he's just a soother.
Yeah, I think...
right, is that correct?
I think that's absolutely correct. Hold on, I'm checking my arcanum here. Brass soothes emotion. Soothes. Oh, God.
Soothes. No, we're not editing. We're keeping it in.
Soothes emotions. You jerk. I'm going to edit this episode. And we learned about riding. otherwise.
Right.
I don't know if we know the metal for it yet.
We do. We've talked about it.
Okay,
We
then
talked
it's
about it.
zinc. Yeah, it's zinc.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm like 99% sure.
Well,
so,
now we know. Now we gotta listen to every episode.
yeah, now we know, guys. Yeah,
It's
it's not
not a
such a
spoiler.
spoiler-free podcast. Sorry. And and so I'm pretty sure we did talk about it, didn't we? Maybe not.
Probably.
Okay. Hey, Kyle, when you're editing this later, go to this time, 56 minutes and 30 seconds.
Actually,
and
Christopher,
go
when
back
you're
and find out.
editing this later.
Yeah, right. And
Damn.
that's a joke. All
I hope you leave that out.
And so,
The truth.
so Breeze is basically giving her this lesson, and the lesson is like, you know, the idea is that idea of someone who can play with their emotions, who can mystically get them to do certain things, makes people uncomfortable, and that what you have to realize, and what you must realize here, is that manipulating others is something that all people do. So his entire belief system is rooted on the belief that like people manipulate people every day without allomancy and all kinds of situations. A lot of like our entire social society and social interactions are based on manipulation, getting people to do what you want to do. You know, what do you think it is when a man seeks the affection of a lady? You know, like people are trying to impress each other. It's all about posturing and influence, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. And we depend on it. You know, that's how we learn to respond to others. And the difference here between soothers and ordinary people is that soothers are aware of what we're doing, and they have a slight advantage, he says. But it's really, you know, is it really that much more powerful than having just a charismatic personality and basically being able to convince, like almost like a salesman, right? Like,
Right.
you know, a good car salesman is gonna, or I guess a good canoe on the river salesman is going to be able to sell
Carriage
this
salesman.
canoe to go up river, and like he's charismatic and he's gonna, you know, obviously like, so he's just saying here that there's not that much different. And so Vin's not, you know, she's not necessarily on board. But we get some good details here. You know, basically a good soother, he's not just good, or she's not just good at using allomancy. Like allomancy can't let you read people's emotions. Like you can't read minds. So you're just kind of as blind as anybody else. And so you fire off these pulses of emotions, targeting either a single person or, very cool here, an entire area, which we kind of knew about when Kelsier came into the Cayman's lair, and everybody kind of felt at ease and quieted down. And
nice
so
catch.
we've seen that before, but it's cool to see it like talked about.
Sure. Right.
And
Tactically, almost.
you know, and like you're hoping to get the effect that you want, whether it's for an individual or for the entire group.
Right.
And you know, you have to use your instincts and, you know, your eyes to know how the person's feeling before you even sue them. So like you have to be able to read people, not related to allomancy. You're just focused on like subtle cues, how they're acting, how they're behaving. You need to have a good sense of all of that before you can even use allomancy in this situation and to soothe them, because you're going to be a much better allomancer because of it. And so, kind of cool here.
Yeah,
and so we're going to see that kind of on display. And quickly, pretty quick after that, Ham shows up. He's just like very normal. Hey, Vin, waves at her. Hey, normal. Is that how it is in the book?
Oh, it's great.
Or in the audiobook?
It's great. He's got a deep voice. Yeah, I talk kind of slow. Yeah, I like it.
So he's eyeing the wine too. So we've got a couple of good drinkers here eyeing the wine.
Yeah, a couple of party guys. Couple Misty Boyz.
And we're kind of seeing Breeze is asking like, hey, how is this area? And Ham says secure. And so we don't really get some context here, but he does say that he has 10 eyes on the corners just in case.
Wow.
We see that Clubs' apprentice. We hear that he's in the back and he's using his ability. He's as a smoker, and they ask him like, "Are you smoking?" And the boy nods, and so they're basically getting prepped for Kel's speech.
Yeah.
Throat's getting parched.
That's because you're killing it. We'd like to thank our sponsors. What are we drinking tonight, Kyle?
Thanks, sponsors. Hall's Cough Drop. No,
Hall's Cough Drop. We'll take a sponsorship. Hall's Cough Drop.
We are a brief message from our sponsors. Product of Italy for some reason. Dry, super dry. Asahi.
Oh,
Asahi.
yeah.
0.0%.
My man, you like it?
Alcohol by volume. I don't know why it is a product of
good.
Italy, but
They make
Asahi
it without...
Super Dry 0.0% is brewed
dry.
with precision to very high quality standards under the supervision of Japanese master brewers. Our advanced brewing techniques enable us to deliver our signature super dry taste with 0.0% alcohol. Probably it's brewed in Italy under the supervision of Japanese brewmasters because of their relation in World War II, axis of power. They're still together. They've had a long relationship and they're just keeping it true.
Oh my god! All right.
Probably gonna have to cut that one out.
No, it's good. It's good. We're gonna lose all our Italian.
More
views.
history. We need more history.
More history.
Moose Mama.
We got Moose Mama likes history. Shout out Moose Mama. Shout out Moose Mama's sister. Oh yeah.
Oh, the Cookie Monster you're
the
talking about?
Cookie Monster. That's right.
All right. So, getting back on track here. And so
Breeze.
So this boy's name, his name is Cobble. He's the smoker.
Mm-hmm.
He's smoking, and they're getting ready for Kel's speech. And we see that.
Oh, there's a lot of new names, a lot of like people out there.
And so, Ham gives Breeze this like kind of like flat stare, and it says like, "You can't push me into complacence, Breeze," because basically Breeze is trying to like break the silence here, and I'm sorry, Ham's trying to break the silence, and Breeze doesn't want to hear whatever he's got to say because it seems to always be like historical or knowledgeable about, he just wants to talk about, oh, actually the, what is the money called?
The boxings.
The boxings were actually invented back in the, like he just that's his whole shtick, it seems like. And so it seems like here Breeze was trying to soothe him to get him to stop, and Ham figured it out and was like, "You can't get me to stop."
Yeah, you can't stop me, Breeze. I love it. The banter between the two of them is just, it's so fun. I really enjoy it.
And so it's great. It really is great. And so it's a good friendship. And but Ham here is saying like, so what I was going to say is, I've been wondering, by overthrowing the Empire, are we doing something good or are we doing something bad?
Philosophical.
And then has an interesting
debate.
Yeah, very philosophical. And she's got this interesting response, unexpected. Does it matter?
Yeah.
And Ham is kind of surprised by this.
He shows a different opinion. He's not willing to. Yeah. He's not afraid to share his opinions.
Oh, for sure. And so, Ham is like, of course it matters. And, Breeze is saying like, well, they kind of jump forward, like, like Ham brings up the Lord Ruler being God, right? And she again is like, doesn't matter. And, he says, all right, the ministry claims that he's God, which is what Vin says. And Breeze says, actually, the Lord Ruler is only a piece of God. He's the sliver of infinity, which we've heard before.
Yeah.
Omniscient. Yeah, omniscient. Thank you.
Yeah.
Or omnipresent.
Yeah.
But an independent section of a consciousness that is.
Yeah.
And Ham sighs, and he's like, I didn't think you wanted to be involved in this conversation, blah, blah, blah. And
he's like, I didn't know you wanted to play this game. He gets excited, I think. Like Ham's down. He loves talking about philosophy.
Oh, for sure. And so Ham says, we claim to be doing good, but the Lord Ruler, as God, he defines what's good. So by opposing him, we're actually evil. But since he's doing the wrong thing, does evil actually count as good in this case?
Because he defines what's good and evil. Yeah, no, I love it.
Just philosophy.
It's a great philosophy, like kind of circular, and like philosophy meets theology debate, where like is what is good and evil defined by God or defined by morality? And so like it's a fun question. And like I think part of just to harken to, like, one of the things I like about Sanderson is that he's a scholar, and that he likes to explore not just mathematics, physics, but in sciences, but philosophy and other things as well. And so he's like bringing this philosophical question into his book, and just exposing it to you of like, well, did you ever think about it like that? And I think that's really cool, considering, and then not a lot of people know, but like he's a Mormon writer. And like, I don't really feel like subjected to that in his writing. It feels like a very open train of thought.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. I had no idea.
Yeah.
So Kelsier shows up. He's not coming in the room, but he's in the venue, and everyone in the room, Breeze and Ham leaves, but Breeze and Vin go to these peepholes in the wall, and they look out, and it's a room full of dirtied ska workers. They're basically a dark group with ash-stained skin, slumped postures. They're defeated. Clearly, they're wearing ragged cloaks and work boots. Vin was expecting, obviously, Kelsier, if he's given a speech, to be something be grand, but he was actually pretty muted. He was wearing similar clothes to what they were wearing, not torn up, not anything like that, not dirty, but similar clothing instead of like a nobleman's suit or anything like that. Definitely no walking cane here. And
right, no walking cane or dueling cane.
Right. And she thought, was Kelsier, because he has the ability to hush a room, or she's wondering at his ability to hush a room, of like these hungry men, and like, is he using allomancy? And she, has her copper on, and she does feel a presence from Kelsier.
Right.
So once the room gets quiet, Kelsier begins, and he basically gives a speech here of, like why these people should join the rebellion.
Right.
We get some tidbits along the way from Breeze. And he says that with most metals, pushing and pulling have opposite effects. With emotions, however, you can often produce similar results, whether you use soothing or writing. It's just how you use them. It doesn't hold for like extreme cases, like the extreme emotional states, but in most cases, it doesn't matter which one you use. You can get the desired effect. And someone that's experienced in soothing can dampen everything else that someone's like doing or feeling, but the one emotion that they want, and like kind of leave that one like burning in whoever they're trying to soothe. And we get a new person here, which is, well, not necessarily a new person, but I think it's one of the guards here, Rudd. Like Paul Rudd, Rudd.
Definitely Paul Rudd.
Paul Rudd. And Bree says, "Sin in the blue server."
Yes.
And Bree says that his soothers are mixed into the crowd, that there's these serving girls, and that there are a sign to tell that these, like, when the serving girl walks in, she's wearing a certain colored dress. That colored dress corresponds to a feeling that Breeze wants his soothers, who are scattered throughout the crowd, to emanate out into the crowd.
Yeah.
So
I love this.
It's super cool.
It's so great.
So the blue dress is fatigue. Um, oh no, I'm sorry, no, that's incorrect. So he's feeling people's senses. He's like fatigue. We don't want that right now. Let's get rid of it. Hunger. That's distracted suspicion. Definitely not helpful. Um, and so he's trying to get rid of all those. But curiosity is what they need. He wants them to be curious about what Kelsier has to say. Send in the blue girl. Blue girl is wearing the blue dress. Blue dress means send out that curious vibe. And that's what the soothers that are in the crowd do.
That vibe. It sends it out. I mean, like he's playing off of the mind's attachment from color and emotion. Really interesting.
Yeah. Oh, it's super cool. And so then, as Kelsier continues the speech, Bree says, "Send in red," and that's now passion and anger. So as Kelsier's talking about, these people's struggles, working 12-hour days, they're poorly fed, poorly paid. People, their friends, their daughters are slain or taken away to be some nobleman's plaything. So he wants them to now feel passion and anger. So he sends in someone in red. But just a bit, just a nudge is what he wants from, his soothers.
Just a nudge. Yeah, so, right. Not too much. Like, don't let him, don't overdo it.
And Vin here is curious. She turns off her copper, turns on her breeze, turns on her bronze, and
turns on her breeze.
Yeah, I like it. To sense breezes, she's trying to see if he's using allomancy, but that she's not feeling this come from him. It's only coming from basically the people that are working for him in the crowd.
Right.
And like basically he's got apprentices too, people that he's training. So she turns her copper back on here. So Kelsier continues with his speech. And we've got basically a man stands up and he's like, "You're a fool," to Kelsier. "The Lord Ruler is going to kill you. You don't rebel against God in his own city." And so everybody's quiet. No one's got anything to say. Breeze is kind of whispering to himself. And Kelsier stands quietly for a minute, rolls back his sleeves. Now you can see the scars on his arms. And he says, "The Lord Ruler's not our God. He can't kill me. He tried, but he failed. For I am the thing that he can never kill."
Right. Absolutely.
So what does that mean?
Yeah.
Who
what
knows?
Yeah.
And so Breeze now wants to send out amazement. So he sends out someone in a brown, brown clothing. So that means amazement. So he wants the crowd to feel that. And then, then Yedin comes up and he kind of finishes things out after Kelsier's done. And then Breeze sends out green to make them feel thoughtful and loyalty, so people don't run and tell the obligators what they're doing here. So lots of different stuff going on with Breeze as he's doing this and kind of teaching things to Vin. It's pretty interesting here. And she can, or Yedin's kind of struggling, and Breeze doesn't want Yedin to struggle with his speech, so Breeze uses his alliancy here to make him like more
from far away,
more confident.
I love
pretty far
it.
Away.
I love it.
And so Vin drops her copper again because she wants to sense if she can feel what's coming from Breeze.
Is this where she makes the comparison about how it feels to like feel the the power of Breeze versus like the power of Kelsier?
I don't know if yeah. So that you're exactly right. So he's like she is able to feel the exact emotions that Breeze was describing that he wants Yedin to be feeling, and she was very impressed. And she says that the few times that Kelsier had used emotional allomancy on her, it was like a punch to the face.
Yeah,
he had strength, but he wasn't subtle with it, and that's where Breeze is obviously a master here. He's subtle.
Yeah, and strong, and subtle and powerful, but you don't know that it's happening to you. Whereas, like, yeah, you can,
right.
As a Mistborn, you can feel it.
Oh, for sure. And so, kind of wrapping up. I know we're long on time, but Yedin's basically saying these guys have to leave their family for as long as a year, but they're going to be well fed. And Breeze, Vin's thinking, I need to make certain that, like, based on everything she sees, she's she is like very excited about these skills and being able to learn the skills, and like that this is great, and that she wants to make sure that she gets sent to learn from all the others, like that they're going to be the masters of their own powers.
Yeah.
She wants to learn from the best.
Right.
And so Vin turned back. She hears Yedin wrapping up, and he says, "You heard Kelsier, the survivor of Halfcent. The rumors about him are true. He's giving up his thieving ways and turned his considerable attention toward working for the Ska Rebellion." And so I just thought that was kind of
like his
yeah.
like innermost desire, almost like kind of coming out, giving him strength, because he's
Sure.
so like insecure about trusting Kelsier in the beginning and giving him all that money, and he's like, "Can I trust you guys? Like, these are a bunch of thugs, like." And he's like a true believer now.
Right. And as Breeze finishes up, or I'm sorry, as Yedin finishes up, Breeze sends out someone bright red. He wants everyone to feel passionate about what they've heard today.
Oh yeah, that's a good part.
And Vin says, "Won't these emotions fade?" And Breeze is like, "Yeah, they're going to fade, but like the memories stay, and people associate emotions with events, and that like they'll be able to remember it." And so then they have this conversation with Ham, who comes back in now after the speech, about how it's just not enough. They're not getting enough recruits from these meetings. It seems like they're having them every few days, and they're only getting about 20 people from each meeting to basically sign up for the rebellion to get shipped off to the caves, and that they're going to try to maybe have some more meetings. And it's just
they're
interesting
struggling.
how,
it seems a little dire. You get that perspective from him where he's like not so confident that everything's going well.
right.
And they're a little nervous.
And so
then what happens?
we're going to a meeting tonight, and we're going to have a little bit of a perspective change.
Perspective change. Dong.
Dong. And so perspective change, we're in Kelsier's perspective. He's standing on a rooftop looking to the west. Or at least I think he's on Clubs' rooftop.
Yeah.
And he's looking at the ash mount that's closest to him, named Tyrion.
Yeah, we get the name for it.
So he's there looking out at that, and he turns away from like the people walking below him, the Ska, and he looks towards the northern horizon, towards the pits of Hathsin. So we're seeing, I think we've talked a little bit about this, but the pits are to the north. We're getting some good geographical context here.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to be able to go to your map in your book if you got a physical copy or an e-copy, and you're going to be able to see that on the map as well.
Yes, I agree.
And so Kelsier has these thoughts of like, where's the ATM going when it reaches the city? Like, it disappears. It's not in the ministry. We've been watching them. We don't see any Ska people touching it. We're assuming that it goes to the treasury, but we don't know. And again, we know that while you're burning the ATM, a Mistborn's basically unstoppable, and it's so valuable. And that specifically, he knows exactly how much ATM is harvested from the pits because he's been there.
Wow.
And Doxson knows how much the Lord Ruler sends out, and it's only like 10%. So the Lord Ruler's keeping 90% of the ATM for himself, and only about a tenth of everything that is mined gets sent out and like spread out amongst the nobility. Right. And so they're just trying to figure out where all of this is going.
Yeah.
And Kelsier's holding the 11th medal, and he knows that there's rumors about it because he's been the one that's been spreading them. He just needs to make good on them that like he can use it to like their advantage. And so he turns toward Kredik Shah, which we know is the Lord Ruler's palace.
Yep.
And he looks there. And he says the name was Terrace, and it meant the hill of 1,000 spires. And that, basically that's what the Lord Ruler's palace looks like.
Sounds crazy.
And he said that Kredik Shah is exactly where everything for him had ended 3 years before, and that's that's where he needs to go back to. So clearly, when he got hooked up and the Lord Ruler foiled his plans in the past, it was at the Lord Ruler's at Credit Shaw.
Yeah, as fort, his palace.
And so, what is going on? Let's see.
Well, we get
so Sazed hops up.
Oh yeah, he's
there, and Kelsier's like, "Hey, I appreciate you coming up here to the city, and that it's a risk." And so we know that basically the Lord Ruler, the Final Empire, they're hunting down and trying to get rid of the keepers.
Yeah, keepers. Yeah, right.
And he says it's like, yeah, it's not healthy to belong to a sect that the Lord Ruler fears, and this strikes Kelsier. He's like, fears. And says it's like, yeah, he fears us, he fears the keepers. And he says perhaps it's because of our powers. We're not Alamancers, but something else, something unknown to him.
What?
So your boy already called that shit. What? Gang.
And you were like, well, maybe he's an Alamancer. I loved it because that's like where you were. You were like, he's an Alamancер, and now Sis is like, but we're not Alamancers. So like,
we're not.
What are they? What is Sazed? What's up with his power?
And so Sazed brings up another religion now to Kelsier.
Yeah, right.
About the Jaeus. And that it's not going to, because Kelsier's like, is there a religion that, well,
he's almost looking for like an example of a religion and like how to like, I don't know. I feel like when he's talking to Sazed here, he's kind of seeking for information about like how to be a successful religion and how to get people to be loyal and devout to a religion and like and to be like a zealot, in some sense. So Sazed tells him about a religion that he knows that like he thinks he will like, and it's very different than the religion he tells Vin about. And I just think that's very interesting. Like he's definitely catering what he's sharing with the particular person that he's talking to.
Well, and we see that, despite Sazed bringing this up, he's telling Kelsier like that this religion is actually not going to suit him. That it's like the brashness might be appealing, but that he's going to find it like too simple, and like some of the more resilient religions, after all the kingdoms crumbled and all the armies had been destroyed, like, some of these religions, Kelsier's like wondering, were they still around? Are they still fighting? And Sazed says, well, yeah, maybe up to like the 5th century. So that's about, 500-600 years ago. We basically see that Sazed is saying that some of these religions have lasted up until like the, last maybe up to 600 years ago, but those definitely lasted longer than anything. And then, kind of Kelsier's wondering what made them so like powerful and how did they last. And, Sazed had some different ideas that some were strong with honest faith and other had promises and some were coercive, but that they all had passion. And Kelsier's here talking about the Lord Ruler and that people don't have faith in him. They just fear him, and that they don't have anything left to believe in. And so Sazed asked the question, what do you believe in, Kelsier? And he's not sure, but he knows that overthrowing the Empire seems like a good start, and asks, are there any religions on your list that include the slaughter of noblemen as a holy duty? And says it's like, yeah, I don't think that's in my repertoire. And Kelsier's like, well, maybe I should found one. Maybe I should found that religion. And so
Sazed looks upon him disapprovingly. He's like,
yeah,
he calls it out. He's like, oh, You shouldn't do that. Like that's not. You're missing the point, Kelsey. I love it.
So we get another fun perspective change.
Perspective
we're
change.
Now in the meeting. This is after the speech that he's given. They're all back at Clubs's, and Vin's hanging out. Everybody's there, and the boy that is hanging out, he was there earlier. Yes.
Yeah.
Lester Borgness.
Yeah.
And she's asking him about Marsh. He's got this horrible dialect. Like, I can't decipher what the fuck he's trying to say.
It's so hard. Like, wasn't in the doing in the place.
Not and without the calls of his parents.
Yeah. And so I mean, I love how difficult it is to understand him. And the fact that Sanderson's playing on language here and how it's very difficult for me to understand anything that he's saying as a character. And she calls it like an accent from cardinal direction, I don't know, west or northern or whatever place she attributes it to. But I just like that real world, something I can relate with, where you're talking to someone and you're speaking the same language, but you don't really understand what they're saying because you grow up from two different places, and it's just not what your exposure is teaching you, and you're like, what, can you say that
again? And so basically we find out that Marsh had a name of Iron Eyes. Lester Borgness is saying some stuff about Inquisitor basically, and so Vin's looking at Marsh, and basically his expression almost looks like as if he's made of iron, and she would see why people would stop using that nickname around him.
They call him Iron Eyes.
Yeah. And so Kelsier finally shows up to this meeting. And he's like, where are we at? And basically, it's kind of some bad news. It's been 12 weeks. They've gathered under 2,000 men. And even with the numbers that the rebellion already has, basically, they're going to fall short of what they're trying to do. And, Dox is going to try to get some more meetings. But Yedin's like, are you sure want to risk that? We're kind of in danger here. Rumors are all over the underground, and if anything kicks up, we're definitely gonna get found out. Doxon's like, yeah, he's pretty much right.
Yeah, it's paranoid for sure.
And so they're like, okay, let's start on the surrounding towns instead. Let's split the group, spread our resources and cast a wider net. That's a good way to put it. And how are we gonna be infiltrating the ranks of the ministry? And so, Kelsier kind of turns to Marsh, and he's just like, yep, I need more time.
Yeah, Marsh is like, come on, give me more time. I love it.
And Clubs is grumbling. He's like, nope, the rebellion's already tried to infiltrate the ministry. It's never been done. It's impossible. And Vin here, she's the one that actually comes up with the idea. And so she talks about the job that Kamen originally had, working with a thief named Theron, and that they were setting up fake canal convoys to carry ministry funds to Luthadel, and that they could use those canal boats, which would have brought new ministry acolytes to Luthadel for the last part of their training, and that this Theron guy basically had someone along the route, a lesser obligator, who's open to bribes that they could get to add an acolyte to the group from the local chapter. So basically plant somebody in there.
Yeah.
And so everyone's like, oh, this that could be worth looking into.
Doxon's like, all right, let's do it.
And so they're going to get, sounds like they're going to get the weapons that they need. So that's good. And Breeze is saying that he's been hearing a lot of rumors and that the people are talking about the 11th medal. And Kelsier's like, good. And, they're like, well, but isn't the Lord Ruler going to hear about this? And, it's going to be if he hears about it, I guess it would be much more difficult to resist him. And Vin has the distinct thought of like, he didn't say kill him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good
And
catch.
so basically the people in the group don't think that Kelsier can.
That's
and
possible.
Kelsier just smiles.
Yeah.
Right. He just smiles and is like, don't worry about that. Like, I've got that under control. And he's going to pay him a visit sometime in the next few days. And Yenen's like, you're going to visit with him? Are you insane? And then he trails off and he kind of looks around the room. He goes, right, yeah, I forgot. That's what we're doing here. We're all insane.
Okay.
And Dawson's like, yeah, he's catching on.
It's a great scene.
And but then kind of wrapping up here, it sounds like Cayman's lair where they originally met.
Yeah, Ham bursts in and he tells him, "Oh, there's like something going on, something you gotta know," you know.
And it's been found out. The Ministry's found it, and it's being raided.
It's being raided.
And with that, I'm excited for you to talk some. We've been going for so long. Our listeners are gonna hate how long this episode is.
They're gonna love it.
And,
they're gonna love it because all the sound effects that you got to it. Because all the hard work that you're doing. No, I'm just playing.
So,
all right. Well, I think this is a great episode. We get 2 great chapters. I think we end here on a cliffhanger, and I understand that a reader's going to probably want to jump in to the next chapter and just dive into that snack that's waiting for us in chapter 11. One of the parts I really like about this is just like seeing Breeze in action and all the soothers in action and kind of like watching them work the crowd and, like kind of put into motion their plan through the power of the soothers alone. And it's really fun to watch. So, I really hope that everybody else enjoys that. Because I think Sanderson's really shining here as a writer, and it's really fun. All right, well, you got anything else for our listeners out there, Kyle?
To be honest, I'm a little beat. This was a long one. We definitely covered. I think I certainly covered some of my thoughts pretty detailed in there about some of the things with what was going on and some theories I had. So I think I'm good to just leave it there, and
yeah, buddy.
We'll kind of just.
I'm pretty beat.
It's late. We're recording this late, and
it's 12:20. I think for me, and it's way earlier for you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this was a lot of fun, and it was a good episode, and I think we really focused in on during the episode, kind of like interjecting our thoughts and kind of like infusing it as we went. So it's a good vibe.
It's infused.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to thank all our listeners out there. My wife, first and foremost.
My wife.
And then Kyle's wife, and then our moms, because sorry, moms.
I didn't tell you. My mom she bought the book. She's gonna start reading.
Yeah, let's go, dude. That's awesome. All right, well, I'm excited for her to join us on the journey.
Yep.
Of the Mistborn. Hopefully she doesn't, just like outpace us, because I believe it can happen.
Yeah, we got to start putting out some episodes here.
Oh man, we're gonna increase the rate. Listeners, do you hear that?
Did someone say increase?
Increase.
Yeah, we'll see.
Noise gate this.
We're off the fucking rails.
I love it.
All right, thanks everyone. We'll see you later.
All right.
Shards and Shenanigans signing out. Can't even fucking say it. All right, thanks everybody. Bye.